Hey, how's it going guys? It's Nate here, and welcome back to the wacky wasteland of Fallout 4. A land dominated by monsters, mutants, maniacs, and madmen, we can find all sorts of living things populating the ruins of the Commonwealth. And while admittedly in a place like this, pretty much every creature is incredibly fascinating and unique, there's a small selection of really rare beings that are especially worthy of further investigation. Some of which you may never have even known existed in the first place. So today, whether it's a strange mutated soda-infused deer, or a type of crab that shouldn't exist, we'll be taking a look at 5 more rare and unique creatures in Fallout 4. Starting off, today's journey begins on the island of Acadia, centerpiece of the Far Harbor DLC, and the only place in the game we can encounter the irradiated Yaoguai, a unique and far rarer variant of the normal Yaoguai we all know and love. Now, upon just looking at this green bear from a distance, it at first can be quite easy to confuse with a glowing Yaoguai. However, this four-legged friend actually has a far more prominent green coloration and glow than the genuine glowing Yaoguai itself does. Furthermore, irradiated Yaoguai also boast, I use that word loosely, strange bony growths across their face and bodies that give them a particularly gruesome appearance. Statistically speaking, the irradiated versions are also a good bit more powerful than their vanilla counterparts, spawning in with a base 800 HP and 165 points of melee damage. Compare that to just 550 health and 100 melee damage that we're used to seeing. Furthermore, something that really sticks out when reviewing an irradiated Yaoguai stat sheet is that these guys have really good perception, like way better than they have any right to, with 15 points worth of the skill, versus the normal 12 to 13 we're used to expecting. The reason for all of these unique properties, both visual and stats-wise, almost certainly has something to do with the irradiated Yaoguai's prolonged exposure to the island's fog, which seems to have a tendency to, well, turn things weird, though we're still far from sure exactly how the fog works. Whatever the case, I suppose the presence of irradiated Yaoguai is just one more reason to be very cautious when you're wandering the forests of Acadia. Next on our list, mongrels are the radioactive descendants of a species that mankind once considered to be its best friend. The short canine-like creatures in fact come in a shockingly large number of forms. There's rabid mongrels, glowing mongrels, feral mongrels. But possibly the rarest, and certainly the most unique looking, is the albino mongrel. Its name probably gives away what makes this variation of the dog so special. Spawning in with a white pigmentation that makes them stick out like a sore thumb, albino mongrels are a force to be reckoned with. Bearing a minimum 275 HP and 50 melee damage, one of these pups can be quite the annoyance. And considering that mongrels tend to spawn in large packs, our frustrations are likely to be significantly multiplied. Now, something definitely worth pointing out is that mongrels are kind of special, as each mongrel variant can also spawn in as an alpha. Alpha mongrel types have even more health and deliver more damage than normal, and can visually be identified thanks to a collar on their neck, which is honestly a tad difficult to see. Alpha albino mongrels can maintain up to 380 health and 65 damage per bite, which is definitely something. Albinos aren't even the strongest variant. That honor belongs to the vicious mongrel. Yet, judging by spawn rates, it seems as though the albinos are a good bit rarer. Luckily, they're just so easy to identify and spot that whenever one does spawn in, you'll almost certainly know about it. Just be ready for the ensuing battle. These pups aren't nearly as playful as dog meat. Coming in at number 3, MIRELURK hatchlings are a fairly common type of creature that we can find all across the wasteland. They can be spat out by MIRELURK queens, be hatched from disturbed egg nests, or even just radiantly pop into the game. Interestingly though, a far less common, yet very similar NPC is the MIRELURK spawn. MIRELURK spawns bear completely identical stats to MIRELURK hatchlings. Their loot drops are the exact same, and their visual appearance is roughly identical as well. Though there's one factor that distinguishes them: their size. For whatever reason, MIRELURK spawns are considerably larger than their hatchling cousins, despite, again, boasting such similar models and textures. Perhaps these guys are meant to be a good bit older and have grown. What's so weird, though, is that MIRELURK spawns barely spawn in the game. Like, at all. They are incredibly rare to encounter. While, as I just mentioned, hatchlings are coming out of virtually every crevice in the game, MIRELURK spawns don't hatch from eggs or get spit out by queens. In fact, the only location it seems you're guaranteed to find one of these little buggers is in the basement of the Massachusetts State House building. But beyond that, your likelihood of finding one in the wild is insanely low. The reason for this seems to be that, unlike hatchlings, the game considers MIRELURK spawns to be actual MIRELURKs, or a variant of them, in the same classification as a glowing or softshell MIRELURK. This means that, again, unlike hatchlings, they share their spawn locations with normal MIRELURKs, and due to their incredibly low stats, the game will almost always elect to spawn in a more powerful type of MIRELURK after the players reached level 5. I'm not necessarily convinced that made the most sense, but essentially there appears to just be a brief window early in the game when the sole survivor is at an incredibly low level where MIRELURK spawns can actually spawn in. And as you level up, they'll quickly spawn in less and less and less, to the point where they basically just fade away. Which is the exact reverse of what you would expect when it comes to creature scarcity. Most rare creatures in the game become slightly more common as you progress, not the inverse. So if you do happen to be approached by one of these crabs early in the game, just remember to cherish the moment, as it very likely won't happen again in that playthrough. For 4th spot, in our last installment of this series, we took a look at the adorable rad chicken. A seemingly quite rare, or at least very difficult to find, critter native to Far Harbor. And many of you responded in the comments section, suggesting that we inspect another little-known, passive, yet cute creature that the island introduced us to. The Rad Rabbit. Yes, in case you're asking, these are a thing. These fluffy fellas can be encountered just about anywhere on the DLC's map, but their low spawn rates and incredibly tiny size, plus additional skittishness / refusal to be anywhere near the player once they've spotted you, makes the Rad Rabbits rather easy to go unnoticed. I personally didn't even know these fluffy friends, along with the rad chickens, were a thing until I began making these videos. Spawning in with a base level 10, 30 points of health, and absolutely 0 potential melee damage, Rad Rabbits aren't exactly the type of animal you need to be on the lookout for. Though if you do manage to find one, and it doesn't get away too quickly, a single shot of any weapon of your choice should be enough to neutralize the bunny, and allow you to loot 1 to 2 rabbit legs, a unique consumable that's used in some cooking recipes. So that's nice. Also, another little bonus fact is that the Rad Rabbit's exact model and texture were simply exported to Fallout 76. And in that game, we can actually find an abundance of the guys. Though, their names have been changed from Rad Rabbits to just Rabbits. So, at least Bethesda altered something, huh? Can't say it was a copy and paste. Oh, moving on. Now, before we get to our last spot of this video, I'd like to share an honorable mention. A creature variant that technically does exist in the game's files, but in practice we will never see without console commands. The young Yao Guai. This is a type of Yao Guai that appears to have originally been set to debut in the game's Nuka World DLC. However, for unknown reasons, was cut from the game. It seems as though Bethesda never got around to designing it a custom appearance like the other Yao Guai variants, as it bears the same look as a generic Yao Guai. However, its stats are a good bit weaker, reflecting the whole young thing. boasting just 350 points of HP and a melee damage of 50, compared to a normal critter's 550 HP and 100 points of damage. We're unsure why the developers didn't go ahead and add this bean to the final product. Perhaps they were just short on time or changed their minds on the concept, but either way, a fun tidbit of trivia. And finally, last on our list, we have the Quantum RADSTAG. Okay, so this is kind of cheating, because we're introduced to the creature as a part of the Manuel Rifle Creation Club creation, which everyone really likes and is totally non-controversial. But the Quantum Stag is, however, a really neat animal. The first thing to note about the creature is, obviously, its unique aesthetic, which is similar to that of a glowing RADSTAG, but with a bluish hue rather than a green one, somewhat similar to the variety of quantum critters we encounter in the Nuka World expansion. In terms of health and damage, this being isn't actually all that distinct from a normal RADSTAG. In fact, it's nearly identical from that perspective, but depending on how you decide to approach the micro DLC it's introduced with, your interactions with the Quantum Stag may vary greatly. You see, the Manuel Rifle creation, once installed, will lead you on this sort of wild goose chase across the northern edges of the map, following the trail of a pair of dead hunters who are trying to kill the deer for themselves, but ultimately perished before their goal could be achieved. As the creation's quest comes to a climax, you'll finally have tracked down the Quantum Stag to a small Nuka-Cola pond, where you'll get to choose between murdering the poor thing to death for yourself and looting its insane inventory, which is just filled with Nuka-Cola Quantum and some unique meats, or sparing the majestic beast, and in fact sending it to one of your own settlements to live out the remainder of its days in peace, safe from any ambitious hunters. It won't really do much at your given settlement other than just mope around and look cool, but hey, it's something. And bear in mind, you can only cross paths with a maximum of 1 stag per playthrough. So make sure you cherish the moment if you get it. This is a cute animal that I've wanted to cover for a while, and trust me when I say, it will make the perfect addition to any petting zoo. And with that, we are going to wrap up our 5th installment of 5 rare and unique creatures in Fallout 4. Thanks for stopping by, everybody. Which of these wild wasteland mutants struck you as the most intriguing, and which should we hone in on next? Leave a comment down below. As always, like ratings are very much appreciated. Again, thanks for watching, and hope to catch you all in my next video. Peace out, everyone.